Welcome to Blog Talk Radio in high fidelity.
Broadcasting from Cincinnati, you're listening to the Ringside Reporter Podcast. All the news from the world of boxing right here.
Well, I'm talking to you the way I want to talk to you.
Now, here's your host, Eric Lorda.
And we are live. Welcome to the Ringside Reporter Podcast, where we talk about the latest boxing news. If it's related to boxing, we'll talk about it here. My name is Eric Lorta, and I'm here with my co-host, Ringside Robert, and England's adopted son, Joe Habib. We have a great show for you today, and as always, you can catch us on the web at ringsidereporter.com. If you want to call, ask some questions, or just give your 2 cents, you can call in right now at 323-870-3857. Hit option 1 if you want to talk to us, and we'll be here until 9 p.m. tonight. Today, we're going to talk about, is John David Jackson jumping to Andre Ward's camp? We'll have the all the news. We'll have the latest. Robert, is he going to jump ship? What's going to happen? I don't know. We'll tell you about it, though. Miguel Cotto signs a multi-fight deal with Golden Boy. What on earth were they thinking? What's that? Hey, Robert, what is that old saying? If you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. Is that right?
Yep.
That is it.
That's right.
The fight of the millennium. The fight of the millennium has been signed. And Mikey Garcia has just signed his own death warrant. He will be facing Adrian Bronner.
Yeah, right.
We'll tell you all about it. But first, we get started with a serious note. Our friends in London, man, we have quite a few listeners on here from the UK, and our hearts go out to our friends in London after the terror attacks that took place over the weekend. Stay strong, and we're definitely thinking about you, okay? So hopefully we can provide some entertainment for you for the next 2 hours. So get your mind off.
We love the UK, so our prayers are with you.
Absolutely. Beeb loves the UK too. He's
Absolutely,
man. Son, man. So just some unfortunate stuff. So
heart goes out.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. But now let's talk about Adonis Stevenson versus Andrew Fonfara. Adonis Stevenson ran over Andrew Fonfara last night in front of his home crowd in Montreal. Adonis clipped him with a left in the first round. It hit him right on the temple. Fonfara went down in a delayed reaction. That's how you know the shot hurt, is when he went down when he was delayed. You know, he hit him, and he's moving around. All of a sudden, boom, he just hits the deck.
Exactly.
Fonfara never really regained his bearings in this fight. The second round started and ended quickly. As soon as Stevenson threw a flurry, Fonfara's brand new trainer, Virgil Hunter, stepped onto the apron to stop the fight. I'll tell you what, I was shocked at this fight, man. I thought Fonfara would do a much better job than he did in this fight. I picked him to win. I thought he was going to win pretty convincingly. I thought it was going to be like a very handle, he was going to win handily, and he just didn't. He went out there and laid an egg. He looked awful. I mean, he looked good coming into the ring. He looked good for maybe the first 20 seconds of the fight, but that's about it. He did not look good at all. And I question if Virgil Hunter is the right guy for him. He stepped up on the apron. Virgil Hunter stepped up, stopped the fight, which we never see Virgil Hunter do, but he's only been there with, I only see him usually with Andre Ward and who's the other guy? Amir Khan. And so here's the advice that Hunter gave Fonfara. And I'll go to you guys in just a second. So in between rounds, the first and second rounds, Hunter told Fonfara just to cover up and play defense. Told him not to throw any punches at all. I have to think there was better advice out there to give him. What did he have, money on Stevenson? I mean, isn't throwing punches in a large part of defense too, where you got to throw the punches to keep the guy off you, keep him guessing? Yeah, this was terrible advice by Hunter. I really believe this was terrible advice, man. Beeb, what did you think? What were your thoughts about the advice? First of all, about the fight, and then give me your opinion on the advice that Hunter gave him.
Wasn't excited about the fight. I said to myself, how is Fonfara back here after losing to Joe Smith Jr. and gets a victory over Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Once again, you ask yourself, how does these sanctioning bodies come up with these rankings? So I really didn't have much faith in Fonfara in this fight. Did go away quicker than I expected, but I did expect him to go away. He got caught cold once again in the first round and as well as the second round, and he hasn't been shown to be able to come back once he gets hit with a good shot. I mean, we've seen it happen before. And, he's a solid guy. He's not a bad fighter. He's a fundamentally sound guy, but for whatever reason, he's not a really durable guy. Once he gets hurt, it's a wrap, it seems. He likes to fight on the outside. So once you get past that jab, he's a little bit out of his element and doesn't defend well up close or even in the mid-range. And Adonis Stevenson is definitely one of those guys that likes to go in and out, likes to give you that kind of rangefinder, a little snake charmer type jab, that right jab, and then out of nowhere, he'll just dart in and shoot a short left hand in there. And he's really good at shooting that left uppercut as well. So people like to say he's one-dimensional, but as you said and as I said, that's a pretty strong one dimension that he does have, and it's very difficult for most fighters to deal with that one dimension, as we saw last night. Playing defense is a very vague way of putting things, if you will, because as you said, you could just jab and try to offset your opponent, keep on the outside, don't let him get close to you, jab, 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 and not really commit to your offense, basically, because the jab can be used in various ways. We've seen it used as basically, a throwaway punch in some instances. We've seen it thrown as an authoritative punch, as it was in the Pascal Alvarez fight. You saw Alvarez throwing that jab last night like it was a power punch. So I'm not sure if he meant just run and cover up and shell up, or if he meant jab your way out of danger, keep him off you with the jab, keep that range established where he can't get close to land that left hand. So just keep touching and pecking away at him, offsetting and breaking the rhythm. It was a vague instruction. It was just totally vague. And when you're hurt in a fight, or when things aren't going your way in a fight, you need more specific instructions. You don't need, someone in there who's the master of the obvious. So if you're getting hit with a jab, you don't need someone to say, you can't let him hit you with that jab. You need to say, all right, you need to step to the side. You need to slip that jab. You need to throw a feint in there. You need to knock that jab down and come over the top of your own jab. There needs to be specific instructions in there. And it didn't seem like Virgil Hunter really gave any specific instructions. He looked like he was a little bit overly excited. He was surprised with how successful Stevenson was early on in that fight. Maybe he was caught off guard and, basically gave him very simplistic, vague instructions. And obviously we saw the result, what happened. It wasn't good enough to get him out of danger. So it is what it is.
Let me ask you, Hunter trains Andrzej Ward, and I don't think he's a great trainer. I think trainers, I got to be honest, man, I think trainers sometimes are overrated until it gets down to crunch time. I think they help you get ready for the fight, but once it's said and done, you have to go in there and fight. They may develop a game plan, but by the time it's all said and done, when you get in the ring, if you don't know the game plan by then, if you don't know the plan B by then, I don't know what to tell you. I think your trainer has to be somebody you work well with. But I think that sometimes we get into this mode where the superstar trainers, like you have Freddie Roach and Virgil Hunter, and you have these guys you label as superstar trainer, like these are the guys that take your guy to, or these are the guys that take you to the next level. I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my whole thing is this, because you hear people say, well, certain fighters need certain types of trainers to be able to do well. In other words, certain fighters respond to certain trainers. But I also say it's the other way around as well in regards to trainers. I think certain trainers need certain fighters. Right. So certain trainers do well with certain types and styles of fighters. So Virgil Hunter may not be a great trainer, but his type of training style suits Andrzej Ward. I mean, they've been together forever. And sometimes you could just have such a strong, great relationship with one particular fighter, but you can't replicate that same relationship with other fighters. And Emmanuel Stewart is my favorite trainer because I've seen him take different types of fighters and really implement his style and transcend his style onto them. I've seen the difference when he took over Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis became a much better fighter all around. He was more versatile. I saw him tighten up a little bit defensively because one thing that he told Lennox Lewis to do, because Lennox Lewis kept getting bloody lips and bloody noses, he said, why don't you keep that backhand in front of your face instead of keeping it to the side? That way you can catch the oncoming jab or whatever. Then obviously you just, make that little adjustment and turn, make that turn and just slide that right hand over to your chin and your ear area to cover for the hooks. So, certain trainers, I said, can do that with fighters, and other trainers can only do it with that one particular fighter that they're successful with. And Freddie Roach, I think, and I know people don't like to hear this, I think he's the most overrated trainer in boxing. I've never been a huge fan of Freddie Roach. I've seen him, work with a lot of different guys, but they were already established when they went to him. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. People say that he did a lot of good things with Manny Pacquiao. That Manny Pacquiao, before he went to Freddie Roach, was just a one-handed fighter, and all he did was throw left hooks. Okay, he never became a good right hook type fighter. The only difference I think that Freddie Roach did with Manny Pacquiao is I still don't think that Manny Pacquiao was really great with his right hand. He had, he basically had one of those jabs where it was just basically a diversion type punch. It wasn't a punch that he could really use in various ways. I didn't think he had an exceptional jab. He was still a big left hand guy. The only difference was he just threw it more. Just because he threw it more didn't mean he was more successful with it. I still think, Manny Pacquiao still made the same mistakes. I still think he leaned in a lot. I still think he squared up his shoulders a lot. Still think instead of going to the right side, which most southpaws do, he went to the left side. So he just did a lot of things fundamentally wrong. He's just athletically gifted, and the things he did well, he did very well, and other fighters couldn't capitalize on it. So I agree. I think trainers are overrated, and I just think that Virgil Hunter is a very good trainer in regards to Andre Ward, but he hasn't really been successful with any other fighter that I've seen thus far. And once again, you need that perfect marriage. So the trainer has to have a type of fighter where he can work well with too. Certain trainers can't implement this style. It's like a coach in basketball. Not everyone could run that triangle offense that Phil Jackson put into play. Only certain teams were able to do it. So, we saw he wasn't successful with the Knicks, but he was successful with the Lakers and the Bulls. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just like like I said, I mean, different trainers. I mean, Freddie Roach, I don't know if he's an overrated trainer, but you take a look at Virgil Hunter. He's taken Andre Ward. He's guided Andre Ward, but who else? Nobody else. He hasn't taken anybody else. And I don't just the same. You can't really criticize like a guy like Mark Breland, who trained Deontay Wilder and stuff. I mean, because of Deontay Wilder's, a lot of people get on him for his mechanics and everything like that. Mark Breland is a picture-perfect boxer. You can't really blame that guy for stuff he's not picking up. So I agree with you. It's got to be that right marriage. And I don't think Fonfara and Virgil Hunter is the right thing at all. I mean, he looked awful last night. I mean, he looked absolutely awful. Robert, I'm going to bring you in here. What were your thoughts on the fight, and then your assessment of Virgil Hunter afterwards, or Fonfara?
Okay, well, first of all, my condolences to people in Canada who actually had to pay for this. This was a pay-per-view fight if you lived in the country of Canada. So my condolences to anybody that had to pay for this. And I didn't find that out to the broadcast last night. They actually mentioned it on the Showtime broadcast. First of all, I was very disappointed in Andrew Fonfara because the first time he fought Stevenson, he gave him 12 very competitive and difficult rounds. And Stevenson's excuse back then was, well, I underestimated him, this time it looked like Fonfara didn't have any game plan whatsoever. once Stevens hit him and hurt him and knocked him down, that was pretty much it. And I question Virgil Hunter's instructions because, for the simple fact, if you think your fighter is severely hurt like he was at the end of the first round, why would you even send him out for the second round? I just, because if you notice, the time of the stoppage in the second round was 28 seconds. 28 seconds. If you were going to stop that fight like that, then why didn't you just stop it at the end of the first round? I mean, if he was that severely hurt and your solution is, well, don't throw any punches, just move around, get your legs back, clear your head, don't do anything. I thought that was the most ridiculous instructions I'd ever heard a trainer give a fighter. And the whole thing was just very disappointing. And I didn't realize that Adonis Stevenson last night was his 8th title defense. Can you believe that? I didn't realize he had that title for that long. And honestly, he hasn't fought anybody. And it looks like the not fighting anybody is still going to continue. Adonis Stevenson's got to be held accountable, and he's got to be forced somehow to step in the ring with somebody legitimate. Well, that's my thoughts.
Well, let me step in here because you're right. I mean, Eleider Alvarez was the #1 contender, and of course, he took some step-aside money so that Stevenson could fight Fonfara. But I mean, he's fighting. If as long as he fights in his division and he's fighting mandatories, and he'll fight Eleider Alvarez next, maybe. What do you do? I mean, what do you do with this guy? He doesn't seem. He calls out Ward and Kovalev. He has no intention on fighting him. But he does bring up a valid point. He does bring up a valid point that Kovalev did not want to fight him. And they go back to, a couple of years ago with that purse bid that the idiots at Main Events said, all right, well, let's do a purse bid. We're going to fight, contract signed. We're going to do a purse bid. And then they lost the purse bid. They knew they weren't going to win the purse bid. They didn't even, you know what? They didn't even show up for the purse bid. They didn't even show up.
I know.
So now the Kovalev fights go by the wayside. So what is he supposed to, I mean, he's, he says, hey, look, I called out Kovalev and he didn't fight. And you know what? He's right. I mean,
yeah,
I would love,
Eric, I know that.
I would love to see.
I know that, but
go ahead.
But last night it was absolutely ridiculous. Jim Gray was, well, who are you going to fight next? You got to fight somebody. And his response was, well, whoever Al Heyman puts me in against. I mean, Al Heyman is supposed to be your manager, and not your promoter. I mean, Golden Boy needs to get a hold of that tape and play it in the courtroom. I mean, you've got to act like a champion and actually step up to the plate and actually fight somebody, for Christ's sakes. The whole thing was just deplorable. I mean, Alvarez, we're going to talk about that fight in a minute. He looked very good in his fight, but I really don't know how competitive that fight's going to be either.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, when I heard Adonis Stevenson was going to fight Andrew Fonfara, I mean, obviously I picked Fonfara. I thought it was a good matchup. Did either one of you two think it was a good matchup? I know you guys both picked Stevenson to win, but did you guys think it was a good matchup?
I didn't think it was a good matchup.
I did. Yes, I did, because I thought it would be a lot like the first fight. I didn't expect this.
I didn't expect a run over either. If anybody did, I surely didn't expect it. So did he do what we wanted him to do? I mean, he fought a competitive guy, on paper, should have been a competitive guy, and so now, I mean, if he fights Eleider Alvarez, let's talk about Eleider Alvarez for a minute, and we'll talk about his fight next. But does Alvarez, from what you saw, can he beat Adonis Stevenson?
I don't think so.
Beeb is better at this than I am, but I honestly don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so because
in the ring.
Yeah, I don't think so because
go ahead, Beeb. Yeah,
I don't think so because Alvarez did some good things against Pascal, but Pascal, was landing some of those wide hooks and some of those unorthodox punches that he throws, and quite honestly, Pascal's not a huge puncher, but he was still landing some crazy wild shots. And because he opens the shots up so wide, a lot of times the punches become arm punches, and they're not really authoritative type punches that can really hurt you. I thought Alvarez did a lot of good things. I thought he established range last night. I thought for the most part he kept the fight on the outside. But the one thing that I think he used a lot was the jab. The jab was used basically as a power punch last night. It was really snapping Pascal's head back. It was hurting him. It was stopping him in its tracks. And he'll be fighting a southpaw in Adonis Stevenson. So I'm not sure that the jab will be as effective against a southpaw. You're going to need a big right hand to turn things around for you against a southpaw. And he didn't throw his right hand a lot last night. I don't think he threw his right hand a lot last night. I think he threw enough power punches. So that was the problem last night. I think he did some good things, but I don't think he really stepped on the gas and closed the show when he had Pascal moving backward with the jab. So if you can hit a guy with the jab and freeze him and stop him, you got to follow up with something big. And he wasn't following up with the big shots. So if he's not following up with big shots, he's not throwing big right hands against Adonis Stevenson to try to keep him honest, then Stevenson, is going to just be able to kind of walk him down like he normally does. He's going to be able to walk in if he knows that he's not going to be countered with a big right hand. So all he has to do is really worry about the jab. And if he can, offset the jab and stop the jab, then there's not much more that's going to come out of Alvarez. Alvarez is not a guy who's going to take risks. He's not a guy who's very aggressive. He didn't really do a lot in there. So I thought he won the fight barely with the jab. It was a competitive fight. It was a close fight. But I still think that, I think he needs to come with something more than just the jab against a top-level guy like Adonis Stevenson, in my opinion.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about that next fight, Leiter Alvarez versus Jean Pascal. Alvarez won a close, not really a close one, but a majority decision over Jean Pascal. Scores were 114, 114, which I was pretty surprised at. 117, 111, 116, 112. I didn't score the fight, but I had it more along the lines of 117, 111, 116, 112. Alvarez was the mandatory for Adonis Stevenson. He took some step-aside money to let Stevenson have a difficult night against Fonfara, I guess. I can see why Adonis didn't want to fight him, man. Alvarez, to me, looked pretty good in the fight. I mean, I think he would definitely pose some problems for Stevenson. I think the jab may pose some problems for him. I thought he seemed to be a better boxer than Stevenson. I thought Jean Pascal came on late, but overall, I thought the fight clearly belonged to Alvarez. Did you guys think the scores were you surprised when you heard 114 all?
Yeah, I thought it was an 8-4 type fight. But again, a lot of the reason why I think Alvarez won a lot of those rounds, it wasn't because he was setting the world on fire. It was just because Pascal got tired and he wasn't busy, which is kind of his MO. He's a guy that does not throw a lot of punches. He's always been economical with his offense, and he likes to load up and throw those wild bombs. And his jab was okay at points, but he never committed to it. Every now and then he tried to use the jab, set things up, but he just doesn't have the mental discipline to fight, a tactical fight, a methodical type fight. He always has that urgency to, that sense of urgency to want to throw a bomb. He just can't settle down in there a lot of times. I think he fights off of a lot of nervous energy, and once he gets touched, he gets hurt a little bit. His instinct is to come right back, and it doesn't matter if he's got his feet under him or not. It doesn't matter, how his positioning is. He always tries to throw those wild winging shots when he's, once that adrenaline starts flowing. And I just didn't think that Alvarez really dominated him or really was beating him up. I just thought he was winning the fight with the jab, and he was keeping the fight on the outside. And by keeping the fight on the outside, you take Pascal out of his comfort zone, because he's a guy who's kind of an in-and-out guy. He's an ambush type guy, a guy who likes to kind of rev up his attack, go in, go out, and he's a mid-range guy too. So if you take that mid-range away from him, if you go all the way in or you go all the way out, he's going to have a hard time hitting you. And you saw a lot of times he was reaching and winging with the long distance that Alvarez was setting for him. He couldn't deal with that type of fight that Alvarez wanted to fight in terms of fighting from a distance. And Alvarez for the most part, did a good job of keeping him on the at the end of his jab and keep making this an outside fight. Used his height and reach, so you got to give him credit for that. But again, you know, you're gonna have to be a little bit more forceful and authoritative with a guy like Stevenson. You're gonna have to get his attention, get his respect, and hurt him to keep him from coming at you and landing his power shots. Because he's a guy who he can lay back, he can fight off the back foot a little bit, he can suck you into traps, but taking the lead too. When he takes the lead, you know, he'll gamble once in a while, and he'll step in with that left hand and he'll hurt you. So you gotta stop him in his tracks and keep him honest and not let him you know, get in range where he can throw that left hand, because that left hand is a doozy, I'm telling you.
That's a one hitter, man. I tell you what. Robert, what were your thoughts on Eleider Alvarez, and does he pose any competition for Adonis Stevenson?
I think the one thing that he can present problems with is boxing and movement, but I don't know if he's going to survive the whole fight doing that. And here's my problem with this. I did not realize until they mentioned it on the broadcast last night that Alvarez has been Adonis Stevenson's mandatory challenger for the WBC title for the last 2 years. Now, isn't there something in boxing where once somebody becomes your mandatory challenger, you've got to give that person the title shot within a certain period of time? I mean, that kind of blows me away. I mean, the WBC has allowed him to have one voluntary defense after another. I thought there was a certain rule that after so many voluntary defenses, you had to have a mandatory defense. How is that able to be allowed? I mean, the guy has been paid off several times in the last 2 years, so Adonis Stevenson doesn't have to fight him. I mean, where's that right?
That's a great point, and I did not realize that either, and I missed that in the commentary or whatever. But yeah, 2 years, my goodness, man!
Wow,
think about that. I mean, clearly he's getting step aside money. I wonder how much step aside money they get. And I obviously it depends on each case is different, but for Eleider Alvarez for this fight, how much step aside money did he get for Adonis Stevenson to fight Fonfara? I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to hear, you know. I mean, what is it, 50,000, 100,000? You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine it's that much.
Because they kept saying during the broadcast, last time, Eric, or last night, that he kept having to take fights because he needed the money. But yet the last 2 years, he's been the #1 mandatory contender, but yet they must not get paid very much to step aside because he's had to continue fighting just to keep his spot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because that's what I heard. I remember that on the broadcast. They were like, you know, because you know how often do you see like a #1 contender fighting, you know, a guy who can potentially beat you? I mean, Pascal's not a slouch. I mean, you're in his hometown. I mean, you know, I mean, this is a dangerous fight for him, you know, and so wow. I mean, my hat's off to him. But yeah, they said he was fighting because of the money. He couldn't afford, you know, not to fight. So you got to wonder. We were on the topic of trainers earlier. We were talking about Virgil Hunter and what a lousy job he's done with Fonfara. Let's talk about Roy Jones and Jean Pascal here. Beeb, have you noticed any real changes, Jean Pascal? I've noticed a decline, but I don't think that's attributed to Roy Jones. I think that's just, you know, after the couple of fights he had with Kovalev. And I think he had him in his corner with Kovalev, but I think that, you know, he was just on his way down. And he seems to me, Pascal, that is, seems to be one of those fighters that you can tell him until you're blue in the face in the corner what to do when he's going to go out and do his own thing. What are your thoughts on Roy Jones as a trainer for Jean Pascal?
Well, just look at Roy Jones, and I say this with all due respect. Was he ever a guy that did things fundamentally right? Yeah. When you're a guy who's exceptional and you're getting by because you're exceptional, and when I say exceptional, he's just an exceptional athlete. You know, there's many people in sports who got by because they were exceptional. They can get away with not doing things the right way. I mean, we've said this several times about in boxing. If a boxer is great because of his athletic ability, and he's just so gifted physically. He's able to just do things that other people can't do and get away with. Then, that's not the type of guy you want to teach someone who's never fought before. That's not a guy you want to be the author of a textbook on how to box. You know what I'm saying? Right. It just isn't. So they're very similar in a lot of ways. And Jean Pascal kind of emulated himself after Roy Jones. He said it before, that's one of his idols. But once the athletic ability goes, we've seen it with Muhammad Ali, we've seen it with Roy Jones, we've seen it with other fighters. And David Haye is one of those guys who kind of got away with keeping his hands low, darting in and out, the risk-taker type style of fighting. These guys who fight like roosters, basically, like, they get low and they jump in and jump out and they keep their hands up high, and basically their offense is their defense. And I'm not going to sit there and say that Roy Jones didn't have good head movement and he couldn't slip shots or whatever, but he was never a guy that kept his hands up high. He was never a guy that, really fought textbook style boxing. He was a guy that would leap in with left hooks, didn't set things up with a jab very often. And Jean Pascal's a similar type guy. So once those fast twitch muscle fibers start to dull as you get older, that's it. If you've been fighting a certain way your whole career, no one's just going to come in and change you overnight. It's just not going to happen. So Customato said it best. People who were born round, they don't die square. And that's just it in a nutshell. That's how I couldn't describe it any more simpler than that. You're not going to come in and change this guy. He is who he is.
I agree. I think it sounds great having Roy Jones train you, or even Michael Jordan teach you how to play basketball. But those guys did, or Sugar Ray Leonard teaching you how to box. I think those guys, those guys were so not necessarily Sugar Ray, but even Sugar Ray, because he was so great. He was such a great fighter that he can get away with stuff that you normally couldn't do. And Michael Jordan the same way, and Roy Jones the same way. They're not really by the basics guys. You know what I mean? So yeah. What about you, Robert? Have you noticed anything with Jean Pascal and Roy Jones?
No, Eric, what I've noticed is Jean Pascal is slowly declining, and probably realistically should no longer be licensed for boxing matches. I think it's...
Whoa!
Oh!
You can't be the judge and jury. What's going on here? The guy got to eat.
Realistically, now you have that reaction, Beeb, but realistically, should he be continuing to fight? I mean, each time we see him in the ring recently, it's one bad performance after another. Should he realistically continue?
Well, Robert, the sad part about this sport is I went to a fight once in Lowell. I seen a guy get into the ring with cut-off shorts and friggin' sneakers, and I said, how did this guy get licensed to fight? All you have to do basically is pass a physical. You can fight, Yeah. The commissions aren't really tight on, well, they're getting better. I will say that the New York State Athletic Commission, they're really stringent on who they license and who they don't license. But if you think about it, you got the right people, you got the right connections, or you're in a state that doesn't have a really strong commission, they're going to let you fight. I don't know if you guys remember Peter McNeely, the guy that lost in one round against Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, okay, I remember him.
All right, so you look at him, and I say this with all due respect because he's a great person, he's a great human being, he's the nicest guy you ever want to meet. But some of the guys he fought in his career, they basically picked him out of a bar. You know what I'm saying? So it's not really hard to get licensed in the sport. It's not. As crazy it may sound.
Okay.
There it is. There it is. All right, let's talk about the other fight this weekend. Took place in Pennsylvania. I think it was Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken. Hank Lundy back on the comeback trail versus Daniel Evangelista. Lundy won via stoppage at 2:53 of round 5. After the fight, he called out Robert Easter Jr. I got to be honest, man, and I know he went down to 135 chasing a title. he's going to have to fight better opposition than Daniel Evangelista to get ready for Easter Junior, man. He just will. Beeb, does Hank Lundy pose any threat to Robert Easter Jr. or any other title holder at 135?
You know, I'm a huge Hank Lundy fan.
I am too. I love him, man. He's great.
You know, the problem with him too is he's just not a big guy. Not a big guy. He's not a physically strong guy. And he's got a great pair of legs, man. Got a great pair of legs. He's a very good fighter too. Quick hands, quick feet. But he just seems to have trouble once the fight starts getting hot and heavy and physical. He can be manhandled. And when he fights those big guys, I just see him having a hard time, getting through and getting in there and hitting them and getting his respect in a fight. He'll do well in spots, but he just does not have enough power. And he's starting to be a little bit ring worn now. The feet are starting to slow down a little bit. So, I think he's got some miles on him now. And, in the right circumstances, maybe he could have become a world champion against the right guy, because he's just a notch below. I'm not going to say he's at the bottom, but he's not at the top. He's a couple notches below. But for a period of time, he was good enough to be mentioned in the name with some of these guys. But I just think that he's had a couple times, he's had a shot. He's had a lot of chances. And I just think he's on the other side of his career right now. I think he's turning the corner. And, as much as I like him, as much as I enjoy watching him fight and have enjoyed watching him fight, I think it's starting to go a little bit downhill for him right now, to be quite frank.
And you can't take him seriously in this fight because it was only an 8-round fight. If you're in championship contention, you fight 10 or 12 rounds. You don't take an 8-round fight.
Well, when you're Hank Lundy and you don't have a lot of say in what's going on, you don't have that stroke or that leverage, pretty much take the fights that are offered to you, and you got to deal with it. I mean, that's just the way it goes with a guy like him. He doesn't have a big promoter behind him. Hasn't really done anything to command any type of leverage as of late. So I guess you take the fights that are given to you at this point, unfortunately. I
tell you, and that's unfortunate because Hank Lundy, his biggest obstacle right now isn't in the ring. It's his promoter, and throughout his career. I mean, this is a guy, if you've ever talked to him, is so charismatic. I mean, he's a very charismatic guy. He talks to everyone. He's a likable guy. He says things, it's like he's funny. He's engaging. He's very inviting persona. Why nobody has picked up on that, or why his promoter has not picked up on that, why his promoter has not done a better job with this character in front of you, because he's a character. I mean, he's great. He's a great guy, man. Why you have not done better with this guy? I mean, shame on you. I mean,
he was never given the chance to be cultivated properly and moved properly. He never had a great manager behind him. I thought he took too many tough fights. Yeah. And took the wrong fights at the wrong times. And it's unfortunate. This is very unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, and he was at 140. 140 was never really his weight. He was always too small for 140. Too small. 135 is his weight. And unfortunately, he's getting this, after the fact. Like you said, now he's fighting 8-rounders and stuff like that. But, to me anyway, like I said, if I were Hank Lundy's promoter, manager, the way I would come at it, I would go after Easter Jr. and I would go after all the champions at 135 and say, listen, Hank Lundy's kind of like the gatekeeper. Let's see how good, because, Easter Jr. is a young guy, young champion. I know Hank Lundy used to spar and give him work all the time and stuff like that. That's the route I would go with it and say, hey, do you want some work? Here's a veteran guy, and have him go that way and backdoor yourself into a title shot that way. But, for you to campaign, I mean, and I know they're keeping him busy and everything like that, but, they're keeping him busy. Last time he fought, he was in Cincinnati. There was about 50 people in the crowd, maybe 25 of them paid. This time he's somewhere in Philadelphia at, what was it, 2300 Arena, wherever that is. Probably, and they said it was a sellout. So I don't know how many people were there. I don't know what they qualify as a sellout or how many people were there, how many people there, how many, the arena held or anything like that. I didn't get the numbers, but it was his hometown.
I know that small arena. That's all I know.
Yeah. It's not like, it's not like you're fighting where Brooke and Spence fought last week, So like I said, man, I don't even blame Hank Lundy for drop. I think he's got the right move dropping down in weight. I blame his people, man. I blame his promoter and I blame his manager for not seeing what you have. That's my big thing with him is that, they've really not done right by this guy, man. Robbie, any thoughts?
This is a guy that deserves a big time promoter like a Tom Loeffler or something, because can you imagine if Tom Loeffler had this guy from the beginning? Look at what Loeffler's done with Golovkin. He could have done the same kind of thing with a personality like Hank Lundy,
Can you imagine the pay cut he took? This guy, like I said, to come and fight in Cincinnati, and nobody knew he was there. They did such a lousy job on promotions. And I know that CES wasn't the people promoting him for that fight, but at least he could help out. He wasn't, I don't know what he got paid. I can't imagine it was much more than 10 grand to be here, and I don't know how much of how much was covered. I don't know too much about it, but it was just, it was awful. It was embarrassing is what it was for a fighter of, Hank Lundy's been in some really big fights in his career, and it was just embarrassing for him. It really was. So, just awful. They've done a horrible job with him. And he's a good fighter, good personality. You got a diamond right there, and, hey, what do you do with him? You do nothing. Awful. So, there you go. All right, let's head to the phones now. 1111. You're live.
Hey, what's up, fellas? It's Wood.
Wood, what's up? I had a feeling that was you. What's going on, buddy? Hey, let me ask you, what did you think? You were, Hank Lundy was here in Cincinnati, as you know, New Year's was it last year or something like that, and then he fought again in Philadelphia on a small card. I don't know if you've had I'm not sure if you've had a chance to talk to Hank Lundy or not, but clearly you've heard his interviews. He's an engaging guy. What are your thoughts on where his career is going as far as his management and everything like that? And will he get another title shot?
Yeah, I was just mentioning in the chat room that it's funny because I spoke with him after the fight against Delperdang in Cincinnati, the one that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And he mentioned he would never fight Robert Easter Jr.
Well, I heard he told me the same thing. He said he's never going to fight Easter Jr., not because he doesn't want to, but because Easter Jr. isn't going to want that fight. He said that, I told him the same thing. I said, look, if you guys are really friends, he'll give you the fight because it's a payday. And that's the best thing you could do with your friends is give him a payday, right? And he said, exactly, but yeah, that's the thing. He doesn't think that Easter Jr. is going to want to fight that guy. He doesn't think the Easter Jr. is going to want to fight him. So, and we may be right. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Kevin Farmer or him, two Philadelphia guys could get that. I'm sorry, that's for Tank Davis. I'm sorry. I don't know. It seems like I used to make some jokes about it, not in a disrespectful way, but Lundy seemed like the guy that was stuck on ESPN, endlessly until he was able to get that fight with Terrence Crawford. But and it was kind of funny because at that time, I can't think of the network that Sean Porter was fighting on, but it was like Sean Porter's career took off, and Lundy was kind of left behind, still being a headliner on Friday Night Fights. And then I actually spoke with Lundy at the Porter Berto fight afterwards, and I don't know, man. He just seems like an angry guy. Still good spirited, like you said, very approachable and all of that. But I think time could be running out.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, man. I mean, like I said, I mean, with an 8-round fight, and he's not, not getting big opponents now, and he's going to have, I tell you what, who's the lightweight champ? You got Easter, who is it? Garcia and Linares, and I'm not even sure if Mikey Garcia is going to move up. I don't know if he keeps his title or not, but he's definitely moving up in weight for this next fight. You got
Eric coming back down.
Flanagan.
He's gonna keep his title.
Okay.
And you also have Jorge Linares and Terry Flanagan.
Yeah, Turbo.
Champion.
Yeah. I think Hank Lundy has trouble with any one of those guys. I don't know that he really beats any one of those guys. Maybe he gives Flanagan. Flanagan might be the most beatable there, or maybe I don't know, man. Those are all tough fights for him.
Yeah, very tough. I don't like his chances against many of them. But, he is one of the warriors in the sports that, like you said, Eric, he deserves a shot at one of those big paydays.
For sure. Without question. Yeah, without question, man. So
coincidentally, I had the promoter of the Evangelista guy was on he was a guest on the last podcast with Beeb on there. But he was really that was his second crack. He also promoted, or he's also the promoter or manager of the fighter from the Cincinnati fight, Delperdang. So this was his second crack at Lundy. And he was just very optimistic that his fighter would take Lundy out. But, I guess it didn't happen, obviously.
Yeah, from what I understand, I mean, I didn't see the fight, but I heard Lundy just stripped him. I mean, it was like 4 rounds to 0, and in the 5th round, he KO'd him. Or stopped him anyway. So, yeah, it was pretty bad. Hank fights at a very fast pace for the first 7 or 8 rounds, 6, 7 rounds. And then he tends to slow down around, 8, 9, and for the rest of the fight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for sure. What were your thoughts? Let me ask you, what were your thoughts on the that first fight we covered, Stevenson and Fonfara? And what did you think of Virgil Hunter's advice?
I thought the fight was horrible going in. I didn't even bother really doing a prediction piece. I did take Stevenson in the 5th round by KO. Something looked very off with Fonfara besides the fact that Joe Smith Jr. put him down pretty easily. I thought Chad Dawson had some earlier success against him before that fight turned in Fonfara's favor. But it was so many more deserving guys of that opportunity that I just couldn't get into that fight. I mean, Marcus Brown was looking for a fight. The Vosdick guy probably fought too recently for that. But there was so many more competitive names for Stevenson to face. And I just, in a year like 2017 where we're seeing all of these marquee matchups, how do you sit here with the belt being, a long-standing, long-reigning champion, and you're fighting Fonfara, and then Robbie said, it's on pay-per-view in your home country. I mean, we see AB in the ring with a ski mask before fights, but I think Stevenson should have had one along with his kick the other night because he ripped those people off.
Yeah, he should. Well, he sure did. And, the common man, Joe Smith, is the one that knocked out Fonfara and knocked out Bernard Hopkins. Why didn't he get this title shot?
I think that's the
right.
question.
They were trying to make that fight.
Go ahead.
I think they were trying to make the Joe Smith Jr. fight. I think they were trying to have that at that Nassau Coliseum in Long Island. I guess is Joe Smith Jr.'s hometown, but that fell apart. So I don't know. It's not a look good. It's not a good look for him. And to be playing coy with Jim Gray after the fight about facing either one of Ward or Kovalev was just kind of indicative of a guy that's really not trying to be great. He's really not striving for greatness. But to Robbie's point, some of the commentary on the fight the other night, I mean, how could we have expected anything from Fonfara when, they mentioned on there that Virgil Hunter flew in on a plane the day of the fight. So what was the relationship? What was the training for him, leading up to this thing? It just seems like I wouldn't have even said some of that stuff. But for your trainer to get off a plane earlier in the day, I was kind of confused on what was going on. And then the way that he stopped the fight, I mean, Fonfara was kind of circling to his left, I believe, to reposition himself to continue fighting. And Hunter was like, he was disgusted, you know, on what was going on with the guy. It just was an awkward evening for me.
Yeah, I agree. It was, I don't know what Hunter was doing in there, man. Hunter was just lousy. And I mean, no other way to put it, man. I mean, and I thought when he jumped up, when that referee stopped the fight, I'm like, what? And then they said that Virgil Hunter was on the ropes. I'm like, for what? I let the referee stop that fight.
Yeah,
it wasn't. I mean, it didn't need to be stopped right there.
Well, like I said a few minutes ago, guys, if he thought Fonfara was that badly hurt, why did he send him out for the second round?
Exactly. If he was that hurt and he couldn't remember his own name and he couldn't walk a straight line, then why was he? What was he doing out there in the second round? Clearly, you thought he was okay. And, you know, and to your point, Wood, I mean, the guy, all right, so he just flies in that day. How much work did he really put in? I tell you what, I hope Hunter doesn't get paid for that fight because he clearly didn't deserve it. I mean, that was awful. I mean, you know.
I thought he was a fan or something with like access, you know, to the ring or something. Because I mean, he definitely didn't look like a professional trainer that night.
No way. No way. Yeah, think about that. That's what, and you know what I was wondering about that. And after the fight, when I'm hearing him talk and everything, I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if he just spent all his time with Ward and didn't spend any time with this kid, or just spent very minimal time with this kid. I'm like, you're getting paid. You know, if you pull the trigger and say, hey, I can do it, then you do it, you know, but I don't know, man. And I know, and you guys know Monsterpiece. You guys know Monsterpiece. She was furious on Twitter last night at Adonis Stevenson for fighting nobodies, and at the end of the day, calling out nobody. You know, and you know, I think you kind of agree with her, man. I mean, you know, because he doesn't fight, but I did like the Fonfara fight. I thought this was a good fight on paper. You know, it didn't turn out that way, but I thought it was a decent fight. And I thought Fonfara really had a chance. I picked him, but yeah.
My friend texted me last night. He thought he had a chance too, man.
Yeah,
he wanted to bet him. He was a huge underdog. I mean, even my friend said, yeah, you know, he's going to take a shot with Fonfara. He saw something too. And with all due respect, I didn't see it, but you know what? It is what it is, man. There's certain things that I see that people don't see. I mean, I picked Amir Khan to beat Canelo. I mean, I can't criticize anybody. Well,
and I thought Robert brought up the great point with that, you know, with that whole thing. I mean, Joe Smith Jr. knocked out Fonfara. Fonfara gets the nod to go in there with him. And I'm like, you're right. It's like, what? How does that work? You know?
Between both of them, Eric, I mean, Marcus Brown had just put down Thomas Williams Jr., who was a recent opponent of Stevenson. So it just stumped the high heavens going into the fight. That how did Fonfara, you know, besides putting down Dawson, who many of us would think is washed at this point, but the only thing they had to sell going into that fact was that Fonfara could say, I mean, it's the rematch, and he could say, you know, I went 12 rounds and I'm coming to get him this time. I'm coming to finish the job. But it was just other guys that were way more deserving of that opportunity.
Well, and as I also pointed out earlier, Alvarez has been the mandatory challenger for that title for 2 years.
Not to mention that.
Why hasn't he had his shot already? I mean, is he that afraid of Alvarez? I mean, from what I seen last night, he doesn't pose a significant threat to Adonis Stevenson. I wish somebody would, but I don't think he does.
Well, that's the point we brought up earlier. You brought up earlier, and I thought that was a great point too. Is like, this guy, if you've been paying him step aside money for 2 years now, why not fight him? I mean, why not? I mean, you're in the home crowd. I mean, you know, obviously you want a bigger name in there than Alvarez, but they come to see you fight. You're going to pack him in. Jean Pascal is going to pack him in. You know, I mean, it's going to be okay. You know, I don't know, man. Yeah, that's he just doesn't seem in a hurry to fight anybody that is too dangerous, I guess.
Not at all. Not at all. Hey, you guys, what'd you think about I don't know if I'm stealing your thunder or not, Eric, on the topics for tonight, but what about Leon Lawson getting the charges dropped against him in Maryland?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, that's not good. But he's been suspended, but
well,
maybe so, but he's been
didn't hear about
suspended.
that, but I think it's disgusting myself.
Yeah, I do too. But he's been suspended by the was it the Maryland Commission? He's been suspended by the WBA, I think, suspended him. I don't have it in front of me, but I know he's been suspended, so he's going to have a tough time finding a job, I think. I think he may have a tough time finding a job. I know the ABC has recommended his suspension throughout. So even if the charges get dropped, I think that how does he get the charges dropped? He was on the lam for like 2 weeks. I don't get it. How do you or I am on the lam for 2 weeks? We're going to jail. There's no two ways about it. We're going to jail. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Don't forget about the video that the whole world had access to.
Yeah,
of him throwing this punch. I mean,
yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Yeah, but was it up to Uzgateki to press the charges, or is it up to the?
I don't. Well, he did press charges. He did
press the charges, and then
yeah, because
then the local authorities made the decision to drop the charges. So it was up to them to drop the charges.
I think probably his lawyers. I don't know. I don't know the whole story, but
really, there's got to be something underlying behind the scenes going on with some type of plea deal or something.
Yeah, there has to be. But like I said, it doesn't matter. If criminal charges were dropped or whatever, he's going to have a tough time finding a home. I'll tell you that. So,
and the internet is a mother effer, because that's going to follow him around for the rest of his life.
Rest of his life, just like it did Panama Lewis, just like it did, Louis Resto. Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big no-no. Big no-no. All right, Wood. Hey, do me a favor before you jump off here. Plug your website. Wood's got a new website, and plug your podcast for us.
Hey, the podcast can be found along with two other guys on my network, Clash of the Nerds and Press Coverage, but it's all on TalkLoudRadio.com, and you can also access it at goingfor2.com. It's an app, actually. It's a free app on Apple and Android. But of course, the name of my podcast is the Pay Me No Mind Sports and Entertainment Show. This next one coming up next week, I believe I'm supposed to talk with Julian Williams, who will be returning to, making his return on the Robert Easter Jr. card, June 30th. So I'm looking forward to speaking with him, and we'll see what he has to say.
Very good, very good. And I know you had some nobody on your show last time. Was it a Beeb or a Joe Habib? Did you have?
Oh. Yeah, I don't know how that guy made it through my producer, but
I don't either.
I had to pay a lot of people to get through the PR department.
What's going on in your screening department over there, Wood?
It's hard to get good help, man.
All right, Wood, we're gonna get running, man.
Hey, you guys continue doing good work, great work. Unfortunately, you guys had a sour weekend of fights to kind of talk through tonight, but you're doing an excellent job. I'm gonna get off here and check out this. Listen to the rest of the show, but check out the first half of this Cavaliers series. So take care, guys.
All right, man. Thank you, Wood.
All right, Wood.
Always a good call, man. Always a good call. And don't forget to check out his podcast and his website and everything like that. And he's got a couple guys on there that do different podcasts and stuff, so check them out too. So there you go. Let's see here. 407. 407, you are live.
What's going on, Beeb?
What's up?
What's going on?
Hello there. I know who that is.
Well, who is this?
What's going on, guys? I have some free time at this time of the night right now. No finals, so I decided to check out the Ringside Reporter with, the great Joe Habib, Ringside Robbie, and Eric, right?
Very good, man.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. Well, just for my own enjoyment, Beeb, last week, did you pick Cal Brook?
No. I picked Errol Spence, man. I've got several videos documenting my pick.
Documenting him.
No, all right.
No, we all picked Spence.
I won a pie in the face bet because you know what my bet was? I said that there's no way Errol Spence does not win this fight by stoppage, and I bet Georgie Porgy that, and it didn't matter if Errol Spence won by decision. I would have lost the bet. I was so confident Errol Spence that I said he'd win by knockout. Oh yeah.
No, that was I wasn't as confident as that. I didn't say no way, but
no, I was wicked confident. I was very confident.
I'm trying to understand the psychology of the mind of Beeb, because out of the most 50-50 UK American fight, you were that confident in the American?
Oh, I didn't think it was a 50-50 fight. I'll explain to you. Right? I'll explain to you why. Because when you look at styles, you look at Errol Spence's style versus Kell Brook's style. It didn't matter if this fight was fought at 160, 154. Errol Spence was always going to win this fight because Kell Brook does not like to fight a fast-paced fight. He does not like to fight an inside fight. And you saw that against Carson Jones. I made a video about this. You saw that and even against Sean Porter. And Sean Porter was doing well, but he kept accepting the clinch. He expected the referee to break him. And if you notice, people want to talk about fatigue, and fatigue happens for several reasons. You're a medical student. You know this as well. When the body is put under mental duress and it's expending a lot of nervous energy and adrenaline, we all get tired, regardless of the physical condition that we're in. And Errol Spence put it on Kell Brook, and he put him in that place where he doesn't like to go. He fought a fast-paced, aggressive, pressure-type fight. And that type of style is always going to give Kell Brook problems if he is not able to dictate how the fight's fought. He likes to fight on the outside. He likes to pick and choose his spots. He does not like to fight a full 3 minutes of a round. And that's why he likes to hold and freeze and slow up the action. So that's why I was very confident. You know, on paper, it's a 50-50 fight. But I looked at the styles, and you can even ask Eric. I said there's no way Kell Brook can win this fight. I didn't think there was any way. I didn't care about the Golovkin thing. I didn't care about the weight. Do I think those things played a factor? Yeah, but the biggest factor in this fight was Errol Spence's style and Errol Spence's game plan. That's just the way I saw it, man. I got to be 110% honest with you.
All right, no, that's fair enough. But I mean, the picture you're painting is it was an Errol Spence ass whooping. The fight was much.
I thought it was. I really did think it was.
I think that Errol Spence against a few guys, maybe like Keith Thurman, might have issues because I think he's a little slow on the feet compared to the elite of the elite. He seems a little stiff. And when Kell Brook was giving him angles, moving in and out, he kind of was not really able to adjust until later in the fight. So I still think that there's 2 or 3 guys out there that could give Errol Spence issues. I don't think that he is you should sit on the throne as the destroyer automatically of that division just because he seems to be the part, but that's just kind of how I see it, right? I mean, you didn't take away any criticism from Errol Spence on that performance, Beeb?
I thought in the beginning, I had him at 6. I still had him up 4-2, but I could see it very easily 4-2 the other way or 3-3. I thought that he was a little tight and a little stiff. And I thought once he got his rhythm down, I thought once he loosened up a little bit, I thought he was doing a lot better. I've seen him move a little bit more with the upper body in a lot of other fights. When he comes in, I've seen him come in at an angle more, and I've seen him like slide his upper body off to the side when he's inside instead of kind of like, staying center line. I've seen him doing a lot of different things in other fights. But the thing I like about him is the jab was incredible. It was on point. And the feints and the way he can jab and then keep his opponent guessing on what's coming next. Because if you saw, go back and watch the fight closely. He'd throw that jab upstairs, and he'd immediately slide in behind it and go right to the body. He kept making those deposits to the body. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I think he destroys Keith Thurman. I think he beats Keith Thurman easier than he beat Kell Brook because Kell Brook is a big, strong, physical guy, and I think he's a very good outside fighter. And his jab is like a ramrod. And you saw that once he was landing with his jab, it really kind of froze Errol Spence a little bit. Keith Thurman's one of those guys that likes to go in and out, and his defense is his legs. And I thought Keith Thurman just got by Danny Garcia, just got by Sean Porter. And I don't think he's going to be able to escape Errol Spence, because you can say what you want. That's a fair point about the feet. I disagree with it slightly. I think, it's a misconception because Errol Spence doesn't really move a lot in the ring. He does a lot of subtle movement. He likes to kind of, track his opponent down, cut off the ring, and he likes to pin his opponent and freeze him up a little bit. He doesn't like to chase guys. He's not a guy that uses a lot of movement, So it's a misconception that maybe he doesn't have quick legs. I think he's a quick, explosive guy. I see him being quick all around. I think he's just as quick as Keith Thurman, but he just doesn't move as much. So that's why people think Keith Thurman would probably be the better guy on his legs, because he uses his legs more. But one thing I love about Errol Spence is he can cut the ring off. He really anticipates what his opponent's going to do, and he beats him to the spot, number one. And number two, once he gets up close and he's in a guy's chest, he's a hard guy to keep off you. And Kell Brook is regardless of what you want to say about Kell Brook, he's a physically strong guy. And he wrapped up Errol Spence. Errol Spence always was able to wiggle at least one arm free, or nudge him off him, or push him off. And he was able to operate up close. And Keith Thurman, he don't like it up close. He don't like being pinned down. He likes to move, and he likes to go in and out. He likes to be able to have some space. And if Errol Spence takes that space away from him, and he traps him in a corner, or he gets up in his chest and starts ripping those body shots, I don't think Keith Thurman's going to be able to keep him off him. And I think even in the Porter fight, Keith Thurman had some problems keeping Porter off him, but he was able to maneuver his way out of harm's way on a lot of occasions. But that fight was razor close, and a lot of people think Porter won that fight. I just think Errol Spence runs right through Keith Thurman, and that's no disrespect to Keith Thurman. That's just how good I think Errol Spence is. I'm really sold on this kid. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm sorry, Robert. It is interesting. Beeb mentioned to me, like off air, that how we literally have polar opposite takes in boxing. When he said he just sneaked by Danny Garcia, I almost threw up in my mouth. You know what I mean? Like I didn't think that fight was that close. I mean, you can call me biased or whatever, because obviously I'm a Floridian and I've met Keith Thurman, and I have somewhat of a interaction with him, but I just see things sort of differently. I'm sorry, Robbie, go ahead. You want to talk about this weekend's fight?
Boxing MD, what do you see in Keith Thurman that you think is going to cause Spence trouble? Because I totally agree with Beeb. I think Errol Spence is going to have an easier time with Keith Thurman than he did with Kell Brook.
For sure.
Because I think that the thing is that I agree that he uses his feet. He has this issue sometimes, like the difference between like a Keith Thurman and the ultra elite fighters. We're talking about like the Sugar Ray Leonards, like the elite of the elite, Floyd Mayweather's, the offense to defense transition, right? In other words, he clearly uses his legs at sometimes to get away from punches. He's not looking to counter. He's just looking to get, use his feet to get away. As Landy Lara does that too, another great fighter. But when he retreats, he doesn't often look to counter. But I think that if he implements a perfect game plan, I think he could give him problems, because Errol Spence, I think, needs a stationary-ish target to get those body shots on. So I see it being a really tough fight. I just don't agree with the whole. I don't even know who I'm picking in that fight. Maybe it's up in the air right now, but I just don't agree that it'd be an obliteration. I think Keith Thurman's tougher than people think he is. I think the Luis Collazo body shot, the shot heard around the world, I think is a little bit of an anomaly or an exaggeration, because he got hit a lot more in a lot of other fights, and he still, stood up. How did
you score that Garcia Keith Thurman fight?
This weekend. Well, go ahead, Beasley.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. How did you score that Garcia Thurman fight? Because I had it 115-113 for Thurman. Eric had Garcia winning.
Yeah, I had Garcia winning that fight.
Yeah, I thought that fight was very close.
That fight was a lot closer. You
don't think Keith Thurman gave away a lot of those late rounds? He kind of just shut down. You didn't see that at the end?
I think it's. I probably gave Danny Garcia 4 rounds, and I think
so you had 8-4. I had it 7-5. I mean, that's pretty comparable in the scorecard, I think.
Yeah, Fair enough, but I don't think. But this is how, like, when scoring goes one way or the other, right? Like, 5 is a close fight. 8-4 is not that close. Like, you know what I mean?
It's competitive, though. 8-4 is competitive, though.
Fight. So
I think 8-4 is competitive.
But I don't think it's razor.
Yeah, I don't know.
Winning 4 rounds against the guy.
I saw it differently.
Right?
I saw it differently, but I can respect your. Again, scoring is so subjective, and I will never ever say, like, to me, I'll never go, oh, how could someone see this? How could someone see? Because again, I mean, I've watched fights and just seen entirely different things than other people have, and you know, it just many times, like, Eric will see a fight one way, I'll see it another fight, like, you know, it's hard for me to criticize somebody because sometimes I just see it, and again, I don't go along with the group think either. I don't subscribe to the group think. If I see a fight one way, like, I'm just going to stick by it, like, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, but again, like, you're probably the only person that has ever said the fight wasn't close, but I'm not going to chastise you for that because I've seen other fights and people will be like, how could you see that? So it's just, I guess scoring is very subjective, and I'm always going to stand by that, you know?
Right. I mean, some people thought like a weird one is on the weird, like, you know, like Manny Pacquiao when he fought Vargas, right? Yeah. Some people thought that fight was close. I mean,
yeah, I didn't think that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, me neither. So, you know, that's just how I see, you know, I disagree with certain things, but I just, you know, wanted to hear your take on that, obviously. But I did only see Ultimate Casual. I've become the Ultimate Casual. I did only see the Adonis Stevenson fight. I disagree. I heard, like, when I just turned on the show, I heard, like, Eric said he liked the fight going into it. I didn't, because I think that Fonfara looked, he wasn't the same guy going in, and I really didn't give him much of a chance because as flawed as Adonis Stevenson may be, that left hand, if you're proven to be somewhat susceptible to power, like, he's gonna hurt you. And it's just so disappointing since his 2013 year, right? And even that Tony Bellew one's looking better because Tony Bellew is still continuing to have success. It's just, I don't understand boxing sometimes where they don't maximize a star. And I know it's not 100% his fault. You know, you go back and forth with the whole Kovalev Adonis thing. He pulled out. At this point, it doesn't matter because if you're not fighting a guy in the top 10 in your last 6 fights and you have the WBC belt and you're supposed to be the man of the division, people don't care if it's your fault or not their fault. You kind of become irrelevant. You become like a Chris John in a sense, right? Even though you're fighting here, it's just people just don't really recognize you as, like, you know, Ward and Kovalev are having a rematch. Although the pay-per-view numbers didn't do well, they're getting way more attention and they're getting way more praise for being the elite of the division. Well, he's sitting on the sidelines, not really doing much. I mean, Thomas, he's better. He's getting better matchmaking than even Danny Garcia got. I mean, Thomas Williams Jr., he deserves a big fight, but let's not forget that Edwin Rodriguez dropped him and hurt him in a fight right before. So you're going to tell me that Adonis Stevenson, who definitely has some elite aspects of his game, especially with that left hand, wasn't going to knock him out? I mean, this is kind of how I see Adonis Stevenson. Disappointing because he is a great talent. I don't like to see a guy almost 40 years old, you know, kind of welt his career away, because you never know, like, one of these guys that I don't think could beat him, like Adonis, Fonfara, can knock him out, right? He was knocked out by Darnell Boone.
What about Joe Smith Jr. coming in out of nowhere? What does he do to an Adonis Stevenson?
He gets knocked out by Adonis Stevenson.
I think so too.
It's just there's, like, I hate the line. There's just levels to this game, and I just see Joe Smith Jr. as being a very, very decent fighter. Just not great. I just don't see the footwork, the lateral movement, the hand-eye court. I just don't see it. And Adonis Stevenson has it. He just hasn't really had to prove it because his level of opposition has been so weak. And I remember a long time ago, I was the thought of a Kovalev, like, it still would be a tough fight for Kovalev. I would pick Kovalev in that fight, but it would be a tough fight for Kovalev to beat Adonis Stevenson because it's just a danger. But you never know. He could knock him out early because having two hands is better than one in boxing, right? But I do want to ask you guys one last, I guess, because I feel like you guys are at least different and try to be pretty objective. But I feel like, because it's been a long time since I've talked to some of you guys, especially Beeb and Robbie, at least on air. I feel like we're in the same place we were before PBC. Is that like a fair assessment? Because it seems to me that all the fights are like, obviously, like the fight that we wanted to see, the big fight, Adrian Broner, big in the sense that it's mainstream. Maybe you could shit on it in certain ways, but I like that fight, Adrian Broner versus Mikey Garcia. I love that fight. It's on Showtime, and all these fights seem to be on Showtime. So it seems to me that it's reverting back to the Showtime HBO model because it just didn't work. The PBC didn't work from that aspect because it failed to do two things. And I'm not coming off as a PBC hater, but I just want you to hear your opinion on, get your guys' opinion on this. They didn't build a brand, which like what the UFC did, synonymous with MMA. Some people call MMA UFC because it's so, like I said, synonymous with it. It's just like, I guess like the WWE or whatever it's called is synonymous with like pro wrestling. And they really didn't build any new stars. All the stars that existed previous for a few years, like Danny Garcia, like Adrian Broner, and those are really the only two stars in PBC. Let's keep it real. And I define stars as has some type of crossover potential. If you fail to do 1 and 2, you're never going to succeed.
One of my major problems, MD, with the PBC is they pay their fighters extremely well, but yet they protect them and basically put them in against nobody. There's no serious competition, and it takes forever to put a big fight together. Yeah, on paper, Adrian Broner, Mikey Garcia should be a good fight, but just because it looks that way on paper doesn't mean it's going to be that way. And one of my other criticisms of PBC is after a fighter has a big success in the ring, aka Keith Thurman beating Danny Garcia, he won't be fighting again until November. Now, I know he had surgery. You can't do anything about that. But, I mean, some of these fighters, they have a big success in the ring, and then they're out of the ring for several months. I mean, it looks like a lot of these guys, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, people like that, are not serious about their actual careers because whenever they go in there, they get big paychecks. But when they accomplish something big, they don't follow up on the momentum. The PBC, to me, stands for, get paid very well and don't fight very often. And to me, that's frustrating as a boxing fan.
Yeah, but I mean, and I think everybody blames like Garcia and everybody blames Porter. I mean, whose fault really is it, though? I mean, is it that they're not fighting? I mean, is it that they want to fight and they're not fighting? Or to me, the PBC, Al Heyman, he signed all these fighters and, they had the PBC, they had them on network TV, and they had an outlet for all these fighters. But for whatever reason, it just never, like I said, it never developed. It sounded great on paper, and I mean, all the boxing fans loved it. But at the same time, they just never really developed. It's like MD was saying, they failed to develop talent. Look at Joe Smith Jr. as a perfect example of somebody who you did not develop. This guy goes in there and knocks out Fonfara, knocks out Hopkins, and now he's on the undercard. Third fight. He's the third fight, jerking the curtain on the one pay-per-view, I think it is. Or no, it's not even a pay-per-view. It's on HBO. Yeah,
just it's on
terrible.
HBO.
But to be honest, like, this is the thing. Like, I mean, little things that they did. Like, I can't say they did many things right. Like, little things. Oh, we're gonna modernize boxing by taking away ring walks. Why? Why would you take away ring walks? People like that. I like it.
Do you think
fans like it?
Yeah, but
like it?
But that being said, though, I mean, does that really determine whether you watch the fight or not?
No, but of course not. But I'm just saying everything that they did was what I think was not correct. But it all comes down to, and I understand where Robbie's coming from, and I don't necessarily I wouldn't put it exactly how he said it. I do feel certain ways, but again, I think it's the development of stars, and the focus is on the development of stars or making the brand right. making the brand synonymous with a certain aspect of boxing, right? And we don't even know, like, it's Showtime in association with PBC, like it's nothing now. In addition, right, and this is the thing that I don't understand why people don't get this. There's a Dana White. There's an Eddie Hearn. I'll watch my language because I don't know how your show is. Who the F is Al Heyman? He's a mystery man. We know who he is.
Right.
But nobody speaks for PBC. I need Lou DiBella, who works for, like, it's just like this, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, there is no Eddie Hearn over here to BS fights, and you need a good bullshitter. You really need it. And you need a guy who could, you need a Dana White, you need an Eddie Hearn, or you need a lot of Danny Garcia, Adrian Broners who have personality crossover appeal. And they haven't done that at all. So maybe it's not 100% PBC's fault, but maybe it's the, I guess, just how boxing is. But maybe it was my pessimism from the beginning that I think that to say that, to put boxing in the league, to try to jump boxing in the league of like NBA or NHL or any of the other sports, which to some degree they're trying to do, I think is just, you're going to crash and burn. You could do little things to improve it here and there, but I just don't know. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And it's just, go ahead.
The sport as a whole really hasn't done anything to really put itself in the forefront, because even HBO hasn't really made great moves either. I think Showtime's done phenomenal. And, the times when they did put fights on CBS and NBC, they did pretty well. They got a lot of, viewership. So my big problem, I think, and I said this.
But Beeb, listen.
Yeah.
Listen to this analogy though, really quick. It's like,
yep.
Let's say that you're trying to court a woman, right? And she's amazing, right? You're not going to develop a relationship if you had one good date with her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I agree. I agree.
Where they did great things, but you have to build on the momentum. You have to establish some type of consistency, and you have to have some type of graduation of viewership. It needs to have a gradual increase. Things need to trend upwards, and that never happened. But go ahead, dude. I'm sorry.
But my problem with the whole thing that Al Heyman did, and I said this right from the beginning, and I was basically a supporter of PBC. I wanted it to do well, but I did say this. I said, when you have so many fighters signed to you, it's going to be hard to keep all these guys busy, and that's the thing. You have so many fighters, and everyone's like, it should be real easy to make these fights, but you got to understand something. All these fighters have different wants, different needs. They have different career path objectives themselves. And he can't put a gun to their head and make them fight each other. So at the end of the day, these guys got to want to fight the fights. And Al Heyman's always been this way. Like, there'd be times when you'd get a couple string of great fights, and then, all of a sudden there'd be a drought again. And I've always said this, boxing is cyclical. Boxing is cyclical.
Being a ghost, though, Beeb?
Say again. Oh no, I've always said that too. I said, he's got to get out there. I mean, no one. The thing is, all these things are being said about him, and he's he's not there to refute or affirm anything. So, this is what's going to happen. Whenever you're silent and no one knows who you are, then people can believe whatever they want to believe if you're not going to come out and speak on anything. I think it's horrible. I think Bob Arum does a great job with the press, even though he doesn't always say what you want him to say. Sometimes he can be cantankerous and stuff like that. He can be a little bit, edgy to people at times. But at least he answers questions. He does answer questions. He's
like 85 years old, and he still, he still shoots the shit. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Oh, yeah.
He's always picked up the phone when I called him. He's always picked up the phone when I called him. I've always never had a problem getting an interview with Bob Arum. Never.
And it's important. I mean, and as much as we, people who are considered hardcore or whatever, and the boxing people, we get angry and annoyed, especially over in the UK with like the Eddie Hearns, like, it's like smoke and mirrors. It's smoke and mirrors. If you really want to build the sport, you have to have some smoke and mirrors. You have to. And, Bob Arum does that, but he also puts on good, not Jeff Horn, Manny Pacquiao, but I mean, I don't know. That's just my thing. I just feel like we're 2 years 2 years have passed, and I think we're at the same place. I really do feel like we're at the same place.
That's a fair assessment. That's a fair assessment.
Boxing. What?
No, I was gonna say that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, like I don't think PBC destroyed boxing, but I just don't think that it really did anything differently and improve it. And we're getting a good year. I can't complain overall. But one of the main reason we're getting a good year largely is because of the UK. And that's really a huge factor. And, you know, it trickles over, it trickles down it. And I'm telling you straight up, that, I mean, I don't know why if I was Deontay Wilder, and he's another one, right? He's another guy that I just don't understand what's, like, he has all, like I'm saying, you could blame everybody else. But when you look at everything he's done since Stavern, he hasn't fought a top 10 guy. He hasn't even fought, and how many years ago was that, Beeb? Since he fought?
Long time. That was like, I want to say almost 3 years ago. No, 2.5, 3 years ago? He fought Stavern? How could you be
the, quote, heavyweight champion of the world, unquote, and not fight a top 10 guy in 3 years? Like, Beeb, how could you explain that to young kid who's watching boxers? Yo, he's not like, when is he going to fight the best? When is he going to fight the best? Like, how do you explain to these people, or casual, or a woman, or anybody who doesn't know the sport, that it doesn't help the sport? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Hey, I was a Tyson Fury guy, and then now I'm an Anthony Joshua guy, man. I'm Union Jack all the way. I've been Union Jack.
You know, but that being said, nobody considers Deontay Wilder the heavyweight champion except him. That's it. Everybody recognizes Joshua as a champion. I mean, beside him, yeah, right. That's it. You know, but nobody recognizes him as a top guy in the division.
He has grown people that scream bomb squad, you know?
Yeah. You know, listen,
you better be careful with that nowadays, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, really. Yeah, here's the deal though. I mean, like with Anthony Joshua is not calling Wilder out. Wilder is calling Joshua out. He's calling Parker out. He's calling all the other champions out. Absolutely no one is calling his name. And there's a reason for that, because he's not relevant. I really believe that. I mean, I like him. Yeah. He's a great guy. He's a great interview, but he's not relevant.
And he has a risk. He's a risk. Like, I mean, as floppy as he is, he's a risk, right?
Yeah, that's a big deal too. Yeah, he's got a big right hand, man.
But here's the thing, Eric, though. Like I said, after 3 years, you got to do something.
I agree.
You have to do something.
I agree.
Because, I mean, the only thing of notoriety Deontay Wilder has done recently is get into a fight in front of women and children. That's the only thing I remember him doing.
Right.
Because I remember him losing 4 straight rounds to Gerald. I remember him losing four straight rounds to Gerald Washington, who got a fight on 10 days' notice.
He looked awful in that fight. But you know, through all his shortcomings, what is he? I don't know his record right off the top of my head. I know he's only got one that's went the distance, and he's in his 30. You know, like
75.
38 and 0, 37 knockouts.
Yeah, 37 knockouts. 37 knockouts, man. And is technically flawed as this guy is, and as much as we say, you know, he's kind of like Adonis Stevenson in the sense that, like, everybody you put in there with him, he's a risk. He's a big risk.
It's disrespectful to I was thinking about it though. I was thinking the correlations between the two. It's disrespectful to Adonis Stevenson to compare their careers.
Wow.
It really is. Because Adonis Stevenson has done.
He's fought some people. He's fought some live bodies, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't want to say it, Eric. MD took the words out of my mouth.
Left him first. Deontay Wilder's best win is Romain Stavern. Like, really, I'm not like hating on him. It's just his best win. And I know the heavyweight division is not as deep, but maybe it is just as deep as 175. Like, it's not like 175 is a really deep division. But anyways, 175 was a division. But anyways, I'll let you guys go, get on to some other.
All right, man. Well, listen, before you go, a couple things, man. The chat has gone nuts for you, man. They really love you, man. They miss you on there and everything like that. Okay, so they love you. But before you go, give out your Twitter handle so they can go follow you.
You could okay, Mike. So I'm warning you. Like, I kept it like pretty calm on like the show because I don't know how you guys are. But
sure,
if you don't care about,
you can do whatever you want here. We do.
Oh well, no. Listen, I understand. I just heard Beeb. I was listening, and Beeb said, whatever. But the point I'm trying to make is, you could follow me at your own risk. You could follow me at BoxingMD1 on Twitter. That is my social media. And don't block anybody. Sometimes I mute because I don't have time, but that's pretty much it. And I like what you guys are doing. Positive energy, talk boxing. So seems to be a good thing, right?
All right, man.
Continue to support you guys.
All right, man. We appreciate it, man. Thank you for the call. Boxing MD. How about that? All right. 508. 508, you are live.
It was happening, people. You'll be my new fool.
Beeb.
Oh, man.
You got it queued up.
Man.
I gotta upload it to the channel. I gotta be honest.
Oh,
I have it on the phone.
You got it on your phone.
I mean, I could play it on the phone, but I don't know. It's kind of all right. I'll do it.
Maron, come on.
It's not gonna be the greatest, but I'll do it.
Come on.
So they could see it.
They want to see it. Show them.
Got to show the world, Beeb. Got to show the world, buddy.
I'm gonna blast it off.
Like a Beeb.
Square and Beeb beats me. So this is for you, buddy. Okay, here he goes. You won't fair and square, buddy. Shout out to the Ringside Reporter and the new champion, the Beebs.
And still
love it.
All right.
Love it.
Listen,
Georgie is a man of his word. Every time pays up. Pays up every time.
Hey guys, talking about that, what happened to that intro? Did you guys make that intro for the champion?
We did not. No, we don't make an intro for Beeb. The only intro we got from Beeb was the
beating the odds of Beeb.
And now it's time for Beating the Odds with Beeb. Starring Britain's adopted son, Joe Habib.
There you go. There you go. That's
going to have
intro.
to do for now. Yeah, that's going to have to do for now. But I'll see if I get you the as a champion. Because Beeb wouldn't be, he went against the odds. And Brooke pull out the, couldn't continue, you know. He got TKO. And I don't know. Just Beeb he's really good when it comes to boxing knowledge. You got to respect Beeb, because the man, you know, he's been around this YouTube for a while, and I do respect him. So congratulations to you, Beeb.
Beeb not even saying anything back.
Thank you.
Disrespectful.
Thank you, Georgie.
Disrespectful. What's the matter with you?
Well, and Beeb's next title defense will be June 17th. Wow. So there you go.
Yeah, we've already liquidated the Beeb Industries funds, and we're going to put it all on Andre Ward again.
Listen, guys, it's been a great year for boxing.
Oh, Georgie dropped. I didn't disconnect him. He dropped. Georgie, give us a call back.
Call back in.
Phones are sometimes.
He's going through a tunnel or something like that. There you go. All right. Yeah. All right. Before we get back to the phones here, let's go over the news and rumors. Oh, we didn't even did we go over the upcoming fights? We didn't, because
we didn't do the upcoming fights. We got to do that now.
Yeah, there really is none here. June 9th. That's a Friday. Yes, Robert?
Yes.
All right. June 9th. Joel Diaz Jr. This is on Showtime. Joel Diaz Jr. versus Regis Prograis, 10 rounds junior welterweights. Steve Rolls versus Demon Nicholson, 8 rounds middleweights. Can't wait to not watch that. And then from Bergen, Norway, Cecilia Brækhus versus Erica Farias, 10 rounds welterweights for Brækhus women's WBC, WBA, IBF, and WBO welterweight title. This is in Norway. I don't know that it's going to be televised. Cecilia Brækhus is widely regarded as like the best woman on the planet right now. So she's very good. So if you get a chance, go watch it. June 10th, that's Saturday on CBSSports.net. Maurice Hooker versus Abdiel Ramirez, 10 rounds junior welterweights. And Danielle Franco versus Jose Haro, 10 rounds featherweights. And I'm looking from Belfast, Northern Ireland, also on the 10th. Lee Haskins versus Ryan Burnett, 12 rounds for Haskins, IBF bantamweight title. That ought to be a good fight. And Ian Timms versus Luke Watkins, 10 rounds, light heavyweights. And that should be on Box Nation, maybe, or one of those. And then the big one on June 11th. Hang on, because this is going to be nuts. PBC on Fox Sports 1. Brandon Rios versus Aaron Herrera, 10 rounds welterweights. Mario Barrios versus Jose Luis Rodriguez, 10 rounds junior welterweights. And then Jose Miguel Borrego versus Kevin Watts, 8 rounds junior welterweights. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm not excited at all about that fight. And the main event on Friday should be a pretty good one with Joel Diaz and Regis Prograis. I've seen Prograis fight several times on Showbox. This is another Showbox presentation, and he's a good and upcoming fighter. This should be a good test for him. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it'll be a decent enough fight. Not necessarily some marquee matchups though. So
no.
Yeah.
That's probably the best fight of the weekend though.
And I just got a text from upstairs. My wife just texted me, I hate Steph Curry. Warriors ahead 31-24, just in case anybody's wondering. So there you go. All right.
Well, continue hating. At least it's not going to get any better.
Well, wasn't it? Kyrie Irving's out. He broke his kneecap or something like that. So he's out. So, yeah, it's not exactly a fair contest, but, you know, that's the only way they could win.
I don't know. Anyway.
All right, let's go to the news and rumors here. John David Jackson is working with Andre Ward. Is that right? There was a rumor going around this week that Sergey Kovalev's trainer, John David Jackson, was going to jump to Andre Ward's camp. There was a lot of talk about negotiations and everything else. This turns out it was all nonsense. Shocking. You know, I think they heard one quote and everybody was reporting it was just nonsense. John David Jackson came clean about the incident this week. He said that the Ward camp approached him after the fight, and while the fight with Sergey was being made or whatever, but he declined the offer and stayed with Kovalev. He said, you know, I've already got, you know, I'm fighting with Kovalev, and I think it was a character move on his part, to be honest with you. And I don't know what bringing in John David Jackson would have done. I mean, I don't think it would have done anything, to be honest with you. I mean, you're not going to learn. What are you going to learn in one fight? Plus, he's still got Virgil. What are you going to learn? His tricks? You just fought him. You know his tricks. Beeb, what were your thoughts? You heard this story earlier on, and you're privy to Ward's mind games and his Jedi mind tricks going on. What were your thoughts on this?
Well, that's just I think the whole thing was mind games, and this is the thing. You know, the writing's on the wall with John David Jackson. If you look at John David Jackson in camp with Sergey Kovalev, it's basically Sergey Kovalev running the show. You know, you're watching them doing drills and stuff, and they're hitting the mitts, or they're hitting the target bag, or you know, doing whatever. And you know, you'll see that Sergey Kovalev will just turn away when he feels like turning away. It's not like they're not waiting for the bell to ring. Usually he just stops, and then you see John David Jackson just kind of turn away and walk off into the corner and kind of go back to the center of the ring. Are you ready yet, Sergey? Are you ready yet? You know, basically getting in that type of posture. And, you know, I was watching the first fight. I went back and watched it several times. You can hear Sergey Kovalev tell John David Jackson to shut up. And then the whole second half of the fight, John David Jackson's just sitting there. He's not saying anything. And then in an interview, you know, he was basically saying that the Russian coach was saying everything. And he was like, I devised the game plan, but, you know, he wasn't listening to me. So he couldn't follow the game plan that I devised because he was listening to the Russian guy. So, you know, and then in an interview recently, too, last week, he was saying, yeah, there were talks or whatever. And he said, they offered me money. He goes, but if they offered me Fort Knox, I would have went over. I would have considered it. So, you know, initially he said, yeah, I'm loyal to Sergey. I won the title with Sergey. And then he goes and says, well, if they offered me the right amount of money, I would have jumped ship. I wouldn't have went over there. So, you know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this one out. You know, Andre Ward has the same, I guess, the same manager as, you know, one of John David Jackson's fighters, Brian Jennings. I think they're linked in that way. They know some of the same people. They work with some of the same people together. So there is some type of indirect contact, some type of correlation or whatever. So again, they know some of the same people, so it wouldn't have been a hard thing to kind of put together. But at the end of the day, I think it was more of the psychological warfare on Ward's side, from the team Ward. And why not keep doing these things? Because guess what? They seem to be working. Andre Ward seems to be kind of like, laughing it up. He's not really, doesn't seem to be irritated at all. Seems very confident, seems very relaxed, seems to keep things close to the chest. Whereas Kovalev seems angry. He seems rattled. He just doesn't seem like he's happy. He's the one that's complaining a lot. He's the one that's keeps going on and on about how he's going to do this, how he's going to destroy. He's got to end his career. And if you look at during the press conferences, he's just sitting in his chair steaming. He's stewing in there. And during the face-to-faces. So I honestly believe, and I can't say this factually, I think it was John David Jackson that wanted out. And I think John David Jackson's the one who's not happy. I think David Jackson's the one who's being made to feel minimized by Team Kovalev. And I think he does want out. I honestly believe that. And I think that if the money was right, then maybe he would have jumped ship. But I think that, Team Ward kind of used this as ammunition to to hold on to him and release at a later date. I don't think they were ever going to take him. But, I think that if the right offer was made to John David Jackson, I think he would have went. I really think he would have went. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think you may have something there. I mean, and I did hear that, like I said, I mean, the Fort Knox thing and everything, but I don't think, there's been talk since a Jalemba fight. I heard rumblings, and maybe it was there beforehand, but that's the first time I really started hearing rumblings when he fought in Russia, and he wasn't doing the best he could, and John David Jackson really doesn't have a handle on him. I don't know that, they brought in this guy. He's a conditioning coach, the new Russian trainer, but he's a conditioning coach. And according to Jackson, is that they do the boxing and they stick with strictly conditioning. And I believe that, but I just don't understand. Like, I don't know of any trainer that would work well with Kovalev, to be honest with you. He seems like he's going to do his own thing, and that's that, Well,
do you remember? I'm sure you remember. It's not do you remember? But let's look at when Alex Ariza went in the corner with Freddie Roach, and then all of a sudden, he became the cut man. He started doing cuts, and he started giving instructions. And it's like these guys come in, with a certain position, and then they try to weasel their way up the ladder. And I don't think this guy is in there just to do conditioning. I mean, he speaks Sergey's language. I'm sure Sergey's more comfortable talking to him than he is with John David Jackson. Right. And I know, you could sit there and say the universal of boxing, everyone understands that language, but there just doesn't seem to be any cohesiveness between the two. There's a lot of friction. You can just see it. And John David Jackson almost looks like he's intimidated by Sergey Kovalev, and he's afraid to say things to Sergey Kovalev because he doesn't know what Sergey Kovalev's going to do or how he's going to react to the instructions. He doesn't have a handle on things, in my opinion. That's just from my own observation. I don't know what's going on. I don't have an insider in the camp, but I'm just looking at what I see, and I'm being honest with you. This just doesn't look good for Team Kovalev. You got a guy who's pissed off, who's angry, and he's going to carry all that into the ring with them. And then you got all this stuff with your trainer not being happy with you and looking to jump ship. It just doesn't look good, man.
No, I
don't see how this can be productive in any way. Going into the biggest fight of your life in a couple weeks. Go ahead, Robbie.
I firmly believe that there's only one trainer out there that could deal with Sergey Kovalev, and I think that's why Kovalev was up at Big Bear, and I think that's Abel Sanchez. I think Abel Sanchez would be the better trainer for Kovalev because he's got Golovkin and all the other Russian fighters up at that camp, and I think that would be the best place for him. I think John David Jackson is in the wrong corner here. I don't know what John David Jackson would be able to do for Andre Ward because Ward is so tied to Virgil Hunter. What would you do? Would you dump Virgil Hunter to the side if John David Jackson, if you were Andre Ward, would would you dump Virgil Hunter to the side and work with John David Jackson, or how would that work? I think Kovalev is eventually going to wind up with Abel Sanchez, and I think you're going to start seeing him working out more with people like Golovkin and stuff like that. I think that's going to be the best fit. And I think all of this is terrible going into your biggest fight of your career. The more I hear about this stuff, the more or less competitive I think the second fight's going to be.
There's just mass confusion going on in that camp right now, in my opinion. And you guys also remember this. Do you remember Antonio Margarito, Miguel Cotto too?
Yeah.
And do you remember when Cotto hired Nassim Richardson just for the night? You know, he was kind of brought in as an advisor or whatever. That's what it was. That's what was said. And he went in there to check Margarito's gloves before the fight. He was the guy that was sent in there, and they actually paid him. And again, that's all psychological warfare. If you could do anything to get that little bit of an edge, why not do it? You know, and people are sitting there saying, well, why is Andre Ward keep playing these mind games and doing all this stuff to Sergey Kovalev? Is he trying to work his confidence up? Is he trying to psych himself up? My response to that is, why would you stop if it's working? If you're getting the reaction you want, if you're eliciting the response that you want to get, then why would you stop? I would keep doing it. Remember when you were a kid and someone would keep like doing something to you or whatever, keep saying something to you, and then you go to your mom, well, he keeps bothering me, and your mom would say, well, why don't you just ignore him, then he'll stop. Well, Sergey Kovalev's not ignoring this. He keeps fueling the fire, and he's getting pissed off and aggravated, and you can just see it in his body language that he is just not comfortable right now. He's like a caged tiger, you know, sitting in those seats for these press conferences. He is upset. And if you're mad, you're just wasting up a lot of energy being mad, as opposed to taking that energy and putting it towards, you know, your training, towards your, you know, being focused for the fight and devising a game plan and just saying to yourself, I'm not going to lose this fight. The first fight is done and gone. I shouldn't even be thinking about that right now. All I should be focused on is what I'm going to do on June 17th. If you want to keep reliving the nightmare of November of last year, that does not serve you any benefit going into this rematch. And that is going to be a problem, in my opinion.
I agree. But, you know, some people do better with turmoil. That's how it is, man. I mean, who knows? It seems like this camp has been in turmoil for a while. It didn't really affect him you know, last time. So,
well, it did, because he lost the second half of the fight, and he ended up losing the fight because he gassed out.
I don't think he lost the second half. Like I said, I thought he split the second half of the fight. I mean, judges thought he lost the fight, but yeah. I gave Andre Ward 5 of the last 6 rounds. I mean, I got to be honest. Yeah.
Some people, and 3 judges did, and other people did too.
Yeah.
Again, I admit I'm in the minority, but when you're a guy, when you're listening to a guy talk and saying, well, I overtrained for the first fight, and I fatigued from the fifth round on. This is his words, not mine. I fatigued from the 5th round on. Then something's wrong, and you have to kind of say that the preparation was somewhat lacking, and that has to, you know, that speaks to the relationship between him and John David Jackson. If John David Jackson's trying to put forth the game plan, and this guy's not following it, I know John David Jackson's not telling this guy to run 14 miles a day. That's someone else telling him to run 14 miles a day who doesn't know anything about boxing. Because instead of 14 miles a day, you could be in the ring sharpening your skills, being in a boxing gym sharpening your skills. You're not training to run a marathon. You're training to fight a 12-round fight. So I think it did affect the first fight, but that's just my opinion.
I agree. All right. Next, Beeb. It's time.
Brianna, are you ready? Are you ready? Go ahead. Hurry up. I'm not waiting. Let's go. We got a show to do here. All right.
Oh, there you go. The train wreck of the week. Miguel Cotto signs a multi-fight deal with Golden Boy. It was announced at a press conference last week that Cotto will return to Golden Boy Promotions for a multi-fight deal. starting with his battle against the very tough Yoshihiro Kamagai on August 26th. In addition, Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions will partner with Cotto and Miguel Cotto Promotions on developing prospects, advancing boxing in Cotto's Puerto Rico homeland, and promoting the boxing legends, use that term loosely, upcoming fights. What is this saying about history? Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Why on earth would you sign this guy to a multi-fight deal? Why on earth? And then, to sign him and he picks the hard-hitting Yoshihiro Kamagai. He's going to murder Kamagai. I mean, he's going to beat Kamagai. I don't know if he murders Kamagai or not. And then Oscar De La Hoya has come out and said, well, we got a big fight for him in December. Who? David Lemieux? I mean,
yeah, probably.
That's it. That's the only guy he's got in his stable to fight.
That's exactly who it's going to be. Eric, is David Lemieux.
But keep in mind, win, lose, or draw in September, would you pay for a Canelo Cotto rematch?
No, absolutely not.
No. Robbie,
the first fight was not. It was.
I thought it was competitive though.
It was one-sided. It was a clear victory for Canelo.
I had it 115, 113 for Canelo. I thought it was competitive.
Much wider than that.
Really?
I
don't know.
I had it 116 to 112.
Robert, what do you think about would you pay for a Cotto? Would you pay for a Cotto Canelo rematch?
Well, I come from the same school of Beeb. My addiction has to be fed. Yes, I would.
You wouldn't pay for the McGregor fight?
Because he hates MMA. It's apples and oranges. It's apples and oranges.
It's not
like asking. That's like asking a guy who goes to Burger King every week if he wants to go to Taco Bell. That's not a fair question.
Taco Bell is so good.
Stop trying to steal my thunder, little one.
Yeah, Joel Lopez in the chat said the first fight was competitive, yet Cotto winning. Him and Julio Cesar Chavez had Cotto winning. Everybody else had Canelo winning.
Oh, Marquez had Cotto winning too. All the Canelo haters had Cotto winning. Are you kidding?
You know, out of all the broadcasts, the only people that had Cotto winning was the Mexican broadcast.
I know.
They all hate Canelo.
It's so funny, man. Like he gets so much. The country of Mexico loves him, but all these, broadcasters and former boxers of Mexico, they're not too crazy about it.
Yeah, they hate him, man. I think Golden Boy, to me, I don't understand their logic in signing this guy to a multi-fight deal. I don't see it. I mean, this guy picks and chooses fights. He doesn't want to fight anybody really dangerous. He doesn't want to fight anybody. He talked about fighting Marquez. Marquez, again, has a bad shoulder, bad knee. He's falling apart. And then you want to fight that guy. He doesn't want to fight anybody dangerous. He doesn't want to fight anybody. He's just looking to, pad his wallet. I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But say he beats David Lemieux, which I don't think is going to happen. I think Lemieux would win.
No.
But do you think that Oscar tries to get him in the ring with Triple G?
No.
This is the plan. This is how the Beeb sees it being mapped out. Okay. I'm going to show you the Eddie Hearn School of Promoting right now. This is how it's going to be done. He's going to fight Kamagai, then he's going to fight Marquez. Canelo. Independence Day. It's going to be a rematch with Canelo. And you may not like all those fights, but guess what? Pretty interesting events. Like we like to say in this sport, there's super fights and there's events. And you put, Cotto and Marquez, two big names. Cotto, Canelo, two big names. These fights are going to sell. They're going to sell.
Oh, Beeb, aren't you forgetting one thing?
What's that?
Aren't you forgetting one thing? What about the Canelo Golovkin fight?
Does it?
If they want a match on Mexican Independence Day?
Well, after Canelo knocks him out in about 5 or 6 rounds, that fight can't be made. I mean, not Canelo. I mean Golovkin. After Golovkin knocks Canelo out, I almost swallowed my Coke Zero down the wrong tube. I meant to say Golovkin. I apologize. But after Golovkin knocks him out in 6 rounds, There's not going to be a rematch, Robbie. Come on.
There it is. There it is. The big one.
Well, I agree with you, but you never know what Oscar De La Hoya is up to these days. I think the train wreck of the week should be both Oscar De La Hoya and Miguel Cotto for putting this deal together.
I think it is. I think it absolutely is. Yeah, I mean, I can't pick one or the other. It's got to be both. Oh, the idiots, man. The big one has been signed for July 29th. This is the fight of fights with the men among men. Adrian Brawner, Cincinnati's finest, versus Mikey Garcia, set for July 29th. No venue has been selected, but I'm hearing a lot about the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. I think it makes sense to have it here in Titletown. For those of you who don't know where that is, that's Cincinnati, Ohio. But that's just, hey, that's
no, it'll be in Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah, be quiet. You're going to put it at the StubHub? All right, 3 names chosen for the Muhammad Ali Trophy. Murat Gaziev. This is that kind of like the Boxino tournament that they're putting together. That who is it? I can't remember. His name escapes me here. Who's the guy that got kicked out of Golden Boy? Richard Schaefer. All right, so this has been put together by him. IBF Cruiser World Champion Murat Gaziev, WBC World Champion Maris Briedis, and top-ranked challenger Krzysztof Wlodarczyk. And they will all be, they'll all be competing for the Muhammad Ali Trophy. There's going to be more names into there, but those are the first names. I don't hate that. I mean, those are good names. I mean, those are good names. It'll give them good coverage. I like it. And finally, Muhammad Ali's boyhood home is in danger of shutting down. George Bruschetto, one of the owners of the Muhammad Ali home in Louisville, said that the home is not getting a lot of visitors lately. He blames the city for not doing more, including promotion and monetary help. He also says that the home may be in danger of closing. I got to be honest. Who cares? The house is really small. It's a small pink house. I can't imagine there's a lot to see there.
Yeah, but isn't it like a landmark or something? It's not like a landmark or something?
Yeah, I think it probably is. They have a Muhammad Ali museum in Louisville. This is where all his memorabilia is. That's where you go. Who cares about his boyhood home? I mean, really, who wants to go in there and see? It looks like a 2-bedroom house, small place. I mean, who cares?
It kind of motivates the Beeb to see where a great person has started out his humble beginnings.
They need to close it down and put it up for sale.
Yeah,
Robbie, you want to go visit it?
No,
I'll take you, Robbie. Courtesy of the Beeb, we'll go down there.
There you go.
1st-class tickets.
There it is. Wow.
I tried.
You tried. You did your best, man. You did your best. And that'll do it for this edition of Ringside Reporter. As always, you can catch Robert on Twitter at Ringside Robert, or you can call him at Ringside Robbie's Corner at 917-259-1810. Leave him a message. Catch Joe Habib on Twitter at JHabib1. Find his YouTube channel on beatingtheoddswithbeeb.com. And I'm at Ringside 73, and we will see you next week.